Hi, this is Krista at The Secret Yarnery. Today I'm going to show you exactly what you need to start crocheting without having to wonder, do I need this, do I need that, should I buy this, should I get that? I'll tell you exactly what you need, the cheapest way of doing it, and let's get started. There are so many things that you can think you need when you start to crochet, or when you think about starting to crochet. It can be super overwhelming. So these are some of the things I have collected over my years of crocheting, thinking I need them, thinking they're great, they're very important for crochet, and I can't crochet without them. However, truth is, you don't need most of it. So what I'm going to do in this video, I'm going to break it down into hooks, stitch markers, scissors, yarn, accessories, things like that for your need list, and then also I'll be telling you what you might want. So things that you need and things that are on the want list, and then things that are absolutely not required. So starting with crochet hooks, there are all sorts of crochet hooks out there, and the least expensive here in Kenya are these little aluminum ones. They're about 20 shillings on the side of the road. If you buy more, you can get them for cheaper. So I have a lot of these little aluminum crochet hooks, and I did start on them. What I don't like about them, they're not very slippery. They kind of grab your yarn and hold on to it, which is kind of handy when you're beginning because your yarn's falling all over the place anywhere. So a good old cheap crochet hook, you can always start with that, and you just need one. Other things you might be seeing in the marketplace that you'll be interested in maybe trying out, there are light up crochet hooks. I don't know which one still has a battery for mine. Oh, that one has a bit of a battery. That's really sad. But these light up, so you can use them. Oh, there you go, that one lights up. So you can use them for dark colored yarn, and they do help, but you don't need them. They are absolutely not required. If you're using a dark colored yarn, you can just use a neck light, and you can use a neck light a lot more than you can one of these crochet hooks. Plus, when you're crocheting with these, you do kind of end up staring at this light when you are crocheting, and it doesn't hurt your eyes. You do get used to it, but you don't need, I don't need it. So I don't know if you need it. And then if you have it with dark yarn, you can see how many strands of yarn you have on your hook, which is handy in the dark or with a dark colored yarn, but you do not need light up crochet hooks. So that could be a want. It's a novelty. I bought them. I thought I needed them. You can get them for about $15 or $20 for the whole set. So it's not like a big investment, but they are a bit bendy and a bit breaky. I haven't broken one, but I've heard of them breaking. They're cool to have, but you don't need them. There are bamboo hooks. I got these free with a magazine, which is super cool. They work. I tried them. They're not terrible. It's just not my style. I find them a little bit grippy on the yarn, but they do work, and if they're free with a magazine, go ahead and use them. The first upgrade that I bought was this crochet hook set, actually the same exact set right here. This is the one I have used forever, and I thought they were the same as Clover's, but they are not the same as Clover. The grips eventually do wear off on these ergonomic hooks. The rubber is really soft, and the handles, you can actually pull the hook out. So you can just keep sliding the metal part right off of the hook, which is annoying, and then you have to put the grip back on, which happens as you are crocheting. It'll slide down, especially if you're doing like popcorn stitches or there's a lot of tension. These grips will slide down your shaft, and also the grip will wear off. You will see the shaft through the thumb rest. They are really grippy. Kind of feels like a school eraser, like they're squishy. So they're comfortable, and they do work better than the cheap aluminum hooks. They do work better. And you can get one of these sets for about $10 or $15. It's good. They're not bad. But what one of my students did tell me, she's like, instead of going for this set, like if she was going to learn again, instead of spending the $15 on this set, she would have just gone straight in and either gotten herself a full set of Clovers These are more of a long-term life best friend crochet hook. They last forever, and the whole set is between $30 to $50 depending on the time of year, and they're super great. So her opinion was, instead of going for ergonomic, she would have just preferred to get either the set of clovers straight away or even 1 or 2 clovers in the hook sizes that she would be using. When you're starting out, you want to start with probably a 6mm crochet hook, this brown clover here, or a 5mm. The bigger the hook, the easier, up to 6mm. So I would suggest starting with a 6mm, but I'll show you that goes with your yarn, and we'll be talking about yarn in a little bit. You can also try tulip hooks. If you're a pencil grip crocheter, you might like tulip crochet hooks better than clover. They have a little thumb bump, a little thumb rest that you might like better on the tulips. So if you hold it like a pencil, try a tulip. If you hold it like a knife, try a clover, or switch it around either which way. And you can even try the larger clover hooks up to 7mm. These are plastic and lightweight. They're also a longer shaft. So if you don't like your crochet hook sitting in the palm of your hand, then the plastic clovers, 6.5mm up, are longer handles. So that might be something for you to look into in the future. To start out, all you need is 1 hook, either a good hook that you really love or any hook that you have, preferably a 6mm. So let me know what your favorite hook is for crocheting and which hook you would start with if you were starting to crochet again in the comments below. Next thing we want to talk about is yarn. So now we have a crochet hook, time to pick some yarn. It is very easy to go and be super attractive to some squishy, delicious yarn or some wonderful colors, and it can be very appealing to be like, I'm going to start crocheting and this is the yarn I'm going to use. But what you want to do is avoid any yarn that has a texture. So any yarn that has like pom-poms on it, or any yarn that goes from thick to thin. You can see with this yarn, see it goes from like there's thick bits and then there's skinny bits. You do not want any of that. You also don't want any yarn with a fuzz. See how it's a bit fuzzy? We don't want that either. So avoid yarn that goes from thick to thin. Avoid yarn that is textured with like pom-poms or anything sticking off of it. Also avoid fuzzy chenille yarn. This yarn is great. It's so squishy and wonderful, but you cannot really frog it. And frog it means rip it, or rip your stitches out. So if you want to take it apart or you made a mistake and you want to just go back a little bit, this yarn has a tendency to even fall apart when you rip it back or when you frog your work. So avoid fuzzy yarn that changes thicknesses or any sort of textured yarn. Don't pick any of these. This is appealing, but it has 2 things that are wrong for it, wrong for starting. It is a little bit bumpy, a little bit textured. See the little knobblies in there? We don't want that. That does count as texture, so removing this or frogging your work will be difficult with this sort of yarn. And it also has a little bit of a halo, a little bit of fuzz, and we don't really want fuzz either. What you want to start with is a good old 4-weight worsted acrylic. So size 4 worsted weight acrylic goes great with a 6mm crochet hook, and it has no fuzz to it. It has no texture to it, and it's also a very strong yarn, so you can frog it back. It's not going to fall apart. It can really handle a good pull, and it's also cheap and cheerful, so it's not really a big financial commitment opposed to going for more of a fancier type of yarn to start. So 4-weight worsted acrylic is what you want to start with, and you also want to pick a light or bright color. So it doesn't have to be white, it doesn't have to be beige, it doesn't have to be pastel. You can still go for a bright shade, but it has to be bright. So I'll show you what I mean about the colors along my yarn wall. So this shelf is all my worsted weight yarn, and I'll just go through and show you which colors I would recommend. So this is good. Those are both the same color, so both of those are good. This is good. This is getting a little bit dark. You could use it if you love this color, but if you don't love the color, it's getting to be too dark. Too dark, too dark, too dark. Good. Those are good. Yellow, good. Still okay, you could use that one. This you could also use if you love the color. You could even use this green if you love that color. These are good. This turquoise is great, or this aqua turquoise is great. This, you could use it if you love the color, but it's getting a bit too dark. So if you don't love the color, it's too dark. These navies and blues, too dark. This kind of light gray, bluey gray, you could use it if you love the color. It's kind of a blue jean color. If you don't love the color, too dark. Too dark. This one's good, good. Lavenders or lilacs are good. You can use it if you love the color of this one, but if you don't love the color, it's getting a bit dark. And then no and no, too dark. That would just be too dark. Too dark. You could use like a taupey kind of color. Oh, that's my Christmas decoration. My stocking hanger. This would be a bit dark, but you could use it if you love it. And then the whites are also okay. I wouldn't recommend also going for a white, white, white. It's also kind of a bit hard to see your stitches. And these are all 4-weight, worsted weight acrylic, size number 4. So now let's talk scissors. There are all sorts of super adorable embroidery scissors you can buy. These are probably about $8 to $10 or $12 or $15, depending on the style that you like. There's even these really great curved Fiskars. These are a lovely scissor to use. Just a smudge expensive. They're about $10. So I had a whole collection because I was really thought that you had to have pretty scissors like Instagrammers do to crochet, but you don't. So I just went to my version of a dollar store here in Kenya and got all of these little manicure scissors. These were $3 each. They're super sharp, super pointy, and they really work great for yarn, plus they're only $3. So you can have 3 scissors for the price of 1 scissor. So that is a perk, and I have a whole bunch of these. They work great, and they're not fancy. None of my kids are stealing them, being like, oh, I really have to use your scissors, because they don't really stand out like the super cute ones can. And I also just recently found these adorable ones. These are also manicure scissors from a different dollar store that just opened up, and they are adorable. These are now my go-to scissors, and they work great. And they're really cute. These are also $3 at my dollar store. So keep an eye out for manicure scissors wherever you're going, because these are yarn scissors for real. So you just need a pair of scissors, and I like a small pair that fit in my little case like this. I'll tell you about this at the end, but see how little scissors fit straight on in there? That is handy, and that is handier than school scissors. So find yourself a cute little pair of scissors, whatever kind you have, but keep an eye out for manicure scissors. The next thing you are going to need is a needle for sewing in your ends. There is a ton of different needles out there. The most common are these little plastic ones, and they do work really good. The thing about them is, well, they're plastic. The second thing about them is they do eventually break. So if you are going into your stitches that are tight, they will start bending, which can be handy if you're working around a corner, but they will eventually get like a little white mark and they will snap. The other thing that happens is they break right at the end here, right at the top of that eye of the needle, and you won't really notice if it's broken until you're sewing in your tail and your tail has fallen out of your work. And well, I've done it like 2 or 3 times in a row before I realized that my needle was broken here. I just thought the yarn was slipping out of the eye, but it was actually broken. So that's why you buy them. These come in packs of 100, so they're good if you're teaching kids and stuff like that, because obviously they're safe. You can't really do too much harm with a flexible plastic needle. But if you are, considering crocheting for a longer time, I don't think you need to buy 100 needles. Other needles that you might be interested in trying out are these Knit Pick ones. I think they're Knit Picks, Knitter's Pride. I'll link it in the description box down below. They have a little fishing eye at the end for just putting your yarn in, so they're super easy to thread. The problem is if you're pulling it through some tight stitches, this entire fishing line bit can just pop straight out. And then you have to kind of glue it back in or buy another set. So this is my last one that's intact. So I don't I don't recommend them, but they are kind of handy to have. They're cute to look at. I use them for pointing out my stitches in tutorials. A needle that's great to have are these bent tip clovers. What I really love about them is the yarn does not fall out of this eye. It has a little grippy slope on the inside, both sides of that eye, and that holds your yarn really, really well, and they are fabulous. They don't bend, they don't break, they're blunt tip. So these are good for lots of different crochet work, especially when you're a beginner and you might be removing your stitches later. The clover needles come in a pair of 2, and they can come either in a flat pack like this, or they can come in one of these little tubes, which I thought was super cute, but it ends up, it's just kind of another bulky thing. So this is either a love-hate for you as well, but you can buy these either way. If you sew your tails in with a blunt tip needle, you can still kind of unpick it in the future and remove your tail. But what I really have fallen in love with this year are these sharp tip needles. Now, I do not recommend these if you are just starting out, because you cannot really you can get it out, but it's difficult. You cannot really remove, or you cannot easily remove your tail from your crochet work, because this goes straight through the other fibers. It'll go through the other strands of yarn instead of around them like a blunt tip will. So if you are finished with your project and you love it, I go ahead and use this sharp tip needle to sew in my ends, but you do not need it. So this is personal preference. I'm not going to tell you which one you have to have. You can go either which way, whatever your budget can afford, but be careful of the sharp tip, because it really does sew in your ends. They're not coming out. So that is dealer's choice for needles. Next thing you're going to think you need is stitch markers, and you don't need them, but they are handy. So I'll give you some options. You probably have these already around your house. If you are going to be crocheting and it's something you're passionate about and you really want to, get into it, then definitely go for the little clippy ones. They're super cute and you will use them. If you are not sure about crochet, you're just starting, or if you're teaching kids and, you're not sure if they're going to be into it, you can start just with bobby pins. Bobby pins work the same, and you get a pound of bobby pins for $7 or something. It is a lot of bobby pins on Amazon for $7. It's about the same. Well, this used to be filled up, so imagine this full. But you get a lot more bobby pins for the same amount of money. But these are really cute, these little plastic ones. And when it comes, there's one color in each section, but I've tipped mine out into my other containers, but I'll show you that at the end. If you don't have bobby pins around your house, you can also just use paper clips. And paper clips, I got this whole box for 50 cents, or 50 Kenyan shillings, so maybe it's 40 cents. You can use just paper clips, and then you just slide the end of the paper clip onto your work and then just kind of unhook it when you're done. The drag about paper clips, no pun intended, is they are a bit slow to put on and they're a bit slow to take off. The good thing about the plastic ones is they just snap in place like that. The bad thing about these plastic ones is they snap in place like that. So you have to shut them or they could fall out. The thing that's great about bobby pins, they have the little rubber bit at the end to protect your hair or your skin, so you can just slide them right onto your work, and they do not come off. It'll just sit right at the end. So they're just easier to use than paper clips, but not as cute as actual stitch markers, but you can totally use them. If you have none of these and you want a stitch marker, you can just use a little piece of yarn and kind of loop that into your work, give a little tie around whatever stitch you want to keep track of, and that works too, but it is even more time consuming than all of these options here. So if you're just starting out, find yourself 2 of something, either 2 stitch markers, 2 bobby pins, or 2 paper clips. That will help you keep track of your first and last stitch of each row. So this is actually what you need to start. You need a light or bright color yarn, you need a crochet hook, you need a pair of scissors, 2 of any sort of stitch marker, and a needle with a big eye. So what you might want in the future is a tape measure. And what you'll see most people using are these little small retractable ones. You get a pack of 10 for about $10 or $12, and they do go quite far out. I think they're about 60 inches, so that is 5 feet, and they work really great. They're lightweight, they're small, they fit in my cute little tin. They fit right inside there, which of course I'll tell you about later. But what I don't like about them, if you're measuring a blanket out or something larger, the tape measure can be a little bit wobbly. And by a little bit wobbly, I mean it's just, fabric-y stuff. So it is flexible, it can twist. It doesn't hold itself rigid like a carpenter's tape, which is why I prefer a carpenter's tape, although this one does not fit in my box. I'll link a small one that will fit in that cute little box in the description box down below. It is 6 feet long, which is long enough to measure pretty much any blanket. And the great thing about the actual carpenter tape is they are rigid. So you can just measure straight across and you don't have to worry if it's folded or twisted or upside down, and it's really a detailed measuring tape. So these are great. These are also about $3, and I will link this in the description box down below, as well as a small one that you can get in the West. I did try these small ones here. These are the 3-foot measures. These are the keychain size, and I got these because I thought they would fit in my case, and they do, but they are really bad quality. It's grating to pull it out. It doesn't feel good. I don't like it. So that is why I just went straight to the smallest actual carpentry tape I can get. And I would totally suggest just going that way straight from the beginning. Don't even bother with, well, it's up to you, of course, but this is the way to go. So get yourself a tape measure. Now this is on the want list. You do not need this. So this is the official first thing on the want list. Another thing you're going to want are some WIP baskets. Now, this is my all-time favorite WIP basket. It is pretty much a small laundry basket. And I love them. I have 6, or I have 5. Not enough anyway. They are about 16 inches across, 11.5 inches wide, 5.5 inches deep. So this is a really great size for anything kind of blankety, which of course you're not starting with a blanket, don't do that. This is just my favorite size. You can also look for like little baskets, kind of almost like Easter egg baskets, and they come in a bunch of different sizes at my grocery store. These are $1 each, and they stack really great. And they also stack great with some projects inside. So how you would be doing that is you'd get your basket, and you would put in your yarn, your hook, your tin of accessories, measuring tape, and off you go. You'd have everything in there. And if you are done working on this project, or it's a bit boring at the moment, you just start a new WIP basket with your yarn and a hook and a tape measure and your accessory tin, and then they stack together just like that. They don't take up too much room. Plus you can see inside just by like glancing at the side of like what is in there, which you can't do with project bags. Project bags are another thing you can use, but for me, I like to just see what I have instead of having to open everything up and just grab and go. And these, of course, super easy to just take with you. And my big ones stack the same. You just put your WIP inside, put your next basket on top, and they don't take up very much room. And see how I can see what project that is? So, oh look, a pair of glasses in the bottom. Oh, and a needle, I like that. So these are my favorite, and that's why, but you can start with smaller ones if you'd like. If you don't want to go out and buy baskets, you can also just use a bowl from your kitchen, and they work just the same. You just throw in your ball and your hook and your accessory box, and off you go. And these also function as your yarn bowl, which is another reason why I really like baskets. Even my big baskets, I don't need a yarn bowl. I just put this right beside me on my sofa or my chair or my bed, and I crochet straight from this basket. So I don't have anything rolling around, and it all stays put. When I'm done, I just put my actual crochet piece on top of here and stack it up with the rest of my WIPs. So that's a little tip and something you want to keep an eye for, or at least raid your kitchen for a little bowl. last but not least on your want list, and this is right up with need. This is close to a need. This is a neck light. If you're not familiar with a neck light, it is a neck light. So it just pops around your neck, and then you can pretty much just crochet. They're each individually controlled with single light, super bright light, or double light. And you can bend them to point exactly where your hands are. They're really handy for crocheting in the dark or with dark yarn in the day. They also recharge just with a little USB. There's no batteries or anything, and they last a really long time. So I will link these in the description box down below, and you will want one of these if you're into crochet or if you would like to read at night or anything like that. And if you have a boyfriend or husband, he's gonna want one too, just saying. Another thing you might want is something to thread your needles. If you have a hard time getting that yarn into your needle, you can be looking for a tapestry needle threader. These are quite good. There's a big hole to put in your yarn on either side. So there's one for like embroidery and one for yarn on each side of the same device. So you would just put this through the eye of your needle, put your yarn, and bring it back through. So it's quite handy. They're really lightweight. And there's also a clover version, which has a much nicer gripper. It's more money. Do I recommend it? No, although I do love clover, don't get me wrong, but I don't find it necessary unless you're really attached to this cute little handle. What I found were these, which of course now today I can't find my little case for them, but I got 60, I think, of these little aluminum or metal yarn threaders, and what's great about it, it's a hook. So you don't have to thread anything like these ones. You just kind of put your yarn through, you just grab it like that. So you do the same thing, put it through the eye of your needle, and then just grab that yarn and bring it through. So it threads super easy, and you can just kind of like hook it. And these were just the little aluminum things, just kind of like this, but a different shape. So I just got 2 buttons of any sort from my button collection and just glue gunned one on to the skinny little end and one onto the other side. And that is a super great little pulling attachment thing, nice spot for your thumb. And I like it even better than the clover. And way cheaper, like way cheaper. So I will link these in the description box. But this, again, is on the want list. You don't need them, but they are kind of cute. They're really fun to make, actually, especially if you have some buttons that, you know, are really cute or vintage and you're never going to use them. This is a great use of them, and they look really cute. Another thing you might want in the future, this also makes a really great gift. If you're thinking of what you can ask for your birthday or Christmas, this is a really great thing. So this is a yarn cutter, and it's also a little pendant. So you can put it on your keychain, or you can wear it as a necklace, and it's really handy. All you do is slide your yarn into one of those little spaces and give it a pull. And it just cuts your yarn. So these are really handy, and they're kind of fun to wear. They're really pretty. There's 2 sides to them, and they're sweet. You can get them in like a antique kind of brownie kind of color or this silver, and I really like mine. I like it a lot. What you don't want to do is drive with it or get in the car and put your seatbelt on, because I have hacked through a bit of my seatbelt with this. So if you're wondering how sharp that little razor is in there, yeah, pretty good. I took out about 1/4 inch of my seatbelt with it, and I'm like, why am I stuck? And I was like, oh no. So be warned, if you're putting a seatbelt on and you have your necklace, that might be an issue. But this is on the want list, want number 3, and it is not urgent whatsoever, but really, really pretty. Another thing you might want in the future is a cute little pair of sharp scissors. So these are small and sharp. They're spring-loaded, which is my favorite. This is from my sewing days, and these are fabulous for making pom-poms or shaping anything. And you can go through a lot of yarn. They're super sharp, and if you just keep an eye on them, I think I got these for about $7, and they are Fisker. So that is a great brand for a great price. Just keep an eye on them. They are handy to have for pom-pom work and things like that. But again, nowhere near being a need. This is way far down on the want list. last thing on your want list are these cute little tins. This is how I keep all of my little sewing notions. So I would just pack this up with what I want for my WIP baskets, my work in progress basket. And you can just buy these in bulk on Amazon. I'll link them down below as well. And then I just fill them up. I put one of my cute little yarn needle threaders in there, and a pair of my scissors, stitch markers, and I put 2 needles in each one. I put a blunt tip and also a sharp tip, and then no matter what I'm doing, I have everything I need with my work. So I don't really have to get up and go and find anything. There's everything I need right where I am. And you can see how cute those yarn threaders work, the little super, super cheap ones with little buttons on the end. They are adorable. Now that finishes my wants. Now we're going to go on to the I don't needs. Top of the I do not need list is a Swift. Now a Swift is something you can attach to your tabletop, and it expands when it's not laying down. You put your hank of yarn around here, and then it spins freely for you to cake up or ball up your fancy yarn that you bought that you want to use. So unless you are starting your crochet journey with hanks of yarn, now hanks of yarn are those fancy ones. I'll just show you here on the screen. Hanks are these fancy type of like hand-dyed yarns or boutique kind of yarns that you cannot just crochet straight from because it'll turn into a big tangled mess. So if you have one of those, then yes, you need a Swift. If you're not starting out with that fancy yarn, you do not need this. Nobody told me that. I bought this when I started. So do as I tell you, not as I did. Another thing that I thought I needed urgently was a little yarn ball winder. This is the little knit pick, I want to say. Yep, it's a little knit pick. And it is cute as a button. You can do all sorts of fun stuff with it. It has a little, hooky thing, so you'd put it underneath your tabletop and kind of screw it, clamp it onto your table, and you can cake things up. Why you do not need it is by the time you want to cake yarn, you want to get a better yarn ball winder. You would want to get the Stanwood. This is a Mac Daddy. I thought I needed the small one because I had small pieces of yarn, but the cone size is the same. You can do just as small cakes on the big Stanwood than you can on the little knit pick. Plus, it goes much faster, it's easier to use and everything. So small yarn ball winder, definitely you do not need. By the time you need a yarn ball winder or you want one, save up your money and get a big one because this is heavy duty metal. Like it is strong, and I'm not gonna say bulletproof, but this thing is a tough. So it doesn't break, it doesn't snap, and you go so much faster than the little ones. So definitely save up for a Stanwood, but way far off on, it is nowhere near a need list, and it is nowhere even near a realistic want list. This is like fantasy version way down the line, but save up for the Mac Daddy. So what you actually need to crochet, you need a hook. You can't crochet without a hook, so get yourself a hook, any type or any set, whatever you'd like, whatever you have. You're gonna need a needle to sew in your ends, either a blunt tip or sharp tip, or both, but definitely blunt tip to start. You'll need a pair of scissors. You will need 2 stitch markers. And you will need a ball of yarn. So that is all you need to start. And what you probably want to start is to add in a tape measure, maybe one of those cute little Altoid tins for your supplies, and eventually you're going to want a neck light. So this is all you need to start crocheting. You don't need the neck light, of course, but that's really handy for seeing your stitches. If you are working in a dimmer light, you'd be surprised how much light you need for crochet. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'd love to hear what your crochet needs and wants are. You can let me know in the comments underneath this video, and invite your friends to this series. I'm super excited to start out crochet classes with you and your friends. So have a super great day. We'll see you in the next video, and stay hooked.